prices of several food items, especially the vegetables, are rising like anything. If you compare the data today, that's on June 27th, and a month ago, there seems to be a drastic increase in the prices of tomatoes especially, and of course there is an increase in the prices of onions and potatoes. A study of the data presented by the Ministry of Consumer Affairs reveals that all the basic items are registering higher level of price rise. If you look at the table that's given in this video, courtesy the Hindu, we will understand how rice, wheat, sugar, milk, salt, tomatoes, onions, potatoes, and even tea powder have been increasing in the last 1 month. So, with the government of India may says that it is a seasonal change, such a volatility is quite common among the perishable commodities like vegetables. Well, it's true to an extent. We have been witnessing this for quite some time. Tomatoes prices fall even up to 1 rupee a kg, and the farmers do not even pluck the tomatoes because it doesn't fetch them anything. They simply leave them in the fields, and sometimes the price of tomato rises like anything. Today, according to the data presented by the Government of India Ministry of Consumer Affairs, there is around 95 to 100% increase in the price of tomatoes in just a 1 month period, from a all India average of 23 rupees plus to 46 rupees plus. But in fact, in certain areas, the price of tomatoes have even touched 100 rupees per kg. In Gorakhpur, in Uttar Pradesh, the price of tomatoes is 120 rupees per kg. So, such a mass increase is unwarranted precisely because food inflation inflicts the poor most. If you look at if we calculate the inflation rate, quite often the government quote inflation rate to make a political defense. But inflation doesn't mean it impacts everybody in a similar manner. For example, a professor like me, in my consumer expenditure, per cap monthly consumer expenditure, the money that I spent on vegetables and other food items is much less compared to what the poor man spends on essential commodities like food materials. If we look at the monthly per capita expenditure from the Consumer Expenditure Survey of the Government of India, more than 60% of the poor man's expenditure goes on food. So therefore, food inflation adversely affects the life of the poor more than anybody else. It affects the nutritional levels of the poor people. It affects the food intake of the poor people in a very big way. In fact, the Prime Minister Narendra Modi once said that his government top priority is TOP top, tomatoes, onions and potatoes. But look at onion prices have increased by over 11%, and the potatoes prices have also increased by 9%. But what should be done? Well, everybody knows the problem, but what should be done? There is no actual production shortfall in India compared to the necessity. So there is no gap between availability and the necessity of vegetables in India. Let me quote the total volume of vegetable production in India as per the global vegetable market data. India produced 9.96, nearly 10 crore metric tons of vegetables in the year 2022. In 2023, it is expected to increase to 10.59 crore metric tons, and it will further increase by around 6.8% in 2024. It is estimated that India will produce 13.54 crore metric tons of vegetables by 2028. So the per capita availability, the per capita volume of vegetables in India is around over 76 kgs. So there is absolutely no problem in terms of the production. One can understand the production shortfall. You can even take measures to increase the cultivation of vegetables, increase the yields, and ensure that the production levels are managed. But the problem of India is not the production shortfalls. The problem of India is inadequate shortage, even at a time of plenty production. What are the reasons for this inadequate shortage, even at a time of plenty production? The reason is essentially lack of proper storage facilities, because these are perishable commodities. Their shelf life is relatively much less. So obviously you need a cold storage facilities, end-to-end refrigeration from farm gate to the consumer gate. So that is lacking in our country. So not only storage, you need to have a seamless transport facility. So the problem is storage and mobility, because India produces vegetables in different regions of the country in different points of time. So there is also a change in the, there is also a difference in the patterns of consumption of vegetables also. For example, North Indians consume potatoes much more than the South Indians. South Indians consume rice much more than wheat. So the governments have to create, the Consumer Affairs Ministry should, in coordination with the Horticulture Department, should maintain the data on production, geographical distribution of the production, consumption and its geographical distribution, to properly plan to ensure the availability of these crucial food intake. In fact, the pulses and the vegetables are very critical for poor man's nutritional diet. So this is not an impossible task to maintain such a kind of a massive data system to understand where the vegetables are produced, when are they produced, and where are they consumed, and how to transport them to that particular place. So we need to create special horticultural zones around consumption centers. When I was a member of the Legislative Council, I proposed a special horticulture zone around Hyderabad, because there is a massive consumption of vegetables, milk, etc., fruits in the Hyderabad city. So if we have a special horticulture zone with proper incentives to the farmers, we can produce the fresh vegetables at a reasonable price without much cost of transport to the people of Hyderabad. So the Food and Agriculture Organization advocates urban agriculture. So the urban agriculture, we can actually convert the waste lands, government lands in the cities into horticulture parks. We can, when I was in the council, the government of India gave a data that 1800 acres of government land is vacant and it is facing encroachment. Then I suggested why don't you convert them into horticulture parks and give it to them to the self-help groups for the poor women. So they will cultivate vegetables, and it improves the climate and environment in the city, and it also provides fresh vegetables at reasonable prices to the people of Hyderabad. So there is also talk of rooftop agriculture, rooftop horticulture. So we need to innovate to ensure that the production takes place, availability is ensured. In fact, much research needs to be done on increasing vegetable hybrid or the vegetable seeds that have a longer shelf life. That can be possible. In fact, we have 64 state level agriculture universities, 3 or 4 central agriculture universities and 4 deemed agriculture universities under the aegis of Indian Council for Agriculture Research. Massive research needs to be done on producing vegetable varieties that have a longer life cycle. So we cannot just say that this is cyclical, it's quite common. Well, I could understand the present situation is essentially due to delayed monsoon and higher temperatures even in June. Well, that doesn't always justify such a huge food inflation burden on the common man.